The trident, a simple symbol that throughout the history of mankind has represented power, authority, and absolute control, and in the automotive world, the symbol of the trident has most notably been used by Maserati for over a century. But few know about the same core trident symbol also being adorned to another series of vehicles, who not only bore the badge, but also the name. Hailing from Great Britain during the 1960s and into the mid-1970s, was a boutique sports car manufacturer that few people know about. And their first car wasn't just another inline four-cylinder English roadster. No, this fire-breathing American V8-powered sports car was a competitor to the Sunbeam Tiger and the legendary Shelby Cobra. This is the forgotten story of England's most underrated sports car manufacturer, Trident. Now, the roots of the Trident can be traced back to a company called Viking Performance. Viking Performance wasn't a car company per se. Rather, they were a leading distributor for TVR cars in Norfolk and Suffolk, England. And they also helped to build race-ready cars and engines, and they were owned by William Last. Now, this is a very important detail, as the first Trident Clipper was originally supposed to be a TVR. Back around 1963 and 1964, TVR was going through a lot as a company, which is a full story for another video. But in short, it was determined that to secure the future of the brand, TVR needed to somewhat reinvent themselves with a car that aimed at fighting more of the giants like Aston Martin and Jaguar. And to do so, they any other existing vehicles. With the design out of the way, TVR would then have coach builder Ferraris to build them an initial steel body prototype of this new TVR car, which was unveiled at the Geneva Auto Show in 1965. This new Fiore design car was to usher in a new era for TVR. With its angular shape, this new TVR was so unfathomably different looking than anything else coming out of Britain at the time that it immediately put people on notice. With its pop-up headlights and short wedge shape, this car was sure to make a statement wherever you went, and TVR managed to rack up over $150,000 worth of pre-orders for this new sports car in the wake of the Geneva Auto Show success. But all those orders weren't just based off the exterior of the car. No, under the hood of this new TVR sat one of the best engines of the era, a Ford 289 cubic inch Hypo small block V8. This rev-happy engine was the same engine that was fitted in the 289 AC Cobras and even the Hypo Mustangs back in the United States, and for good reason. With over 270 horsepower on tap and a very linear power band, these naturally aspirated small blocks were the ultimate engine for a sports coupe, with many people even saying that the 289 powered Cobras were a much better driving car than their faster 427 big block powered brothers. The Trident would have a 4-speed manual transmission and would heavily be based on the existing TVR Griffith and Grantura chassis, which featured a 4-wheel unequal wishbone suspension setup and positive traction rear end and even Girling disc brakes. As a result, overall performance specs were monstrous for the period. 0 to 60 would happen in around 5 seconds flat, and with a shape that cut through the wind, the Trident was able to do around 140 miles per hour. TVR commissioned another set of prototypes to be built, including a new roadster, but disaster would soon strike after that. TVR as a company folded not long after in the same year, which left the new and exciting Trident in limbo. But there was still hope, as another TVR dealership owner named Martin Liley, who would purchase the now-defunct TVR company and try and revive it. But there was still just one little problem with that acquisition. The new TVR Trident prototype wasn't explicitly included in that purchase. And because of that, the new Trident was quickly snatched up by William Last of Viking Performance. Now, there was some contentious debate on the exact details of how all this went down between the new owner of TVR and William last. But all in all, William managed to squeeze his way into the puzzle and become the owner of the new TVR Trident's design rights. And William Last would then go ahead and establish Trident Cars Limited, and they sprung at the opportunity to overhaul the initial TVR design and get it ready for retail sale as the new Trident Clipper in 1966. Now, compared to the initial concept, there actually were a few notable changes made, such as a newly redesigned body that did away with the pop-up headlights from the initial TVR prototype in favor of a more traditional and cost-effective fixed headlight design. This new body would also prove to be dimensionally slightly larger in width, length, and even height. This new facelift wasn't nearly as good-looking as the initial TVR prototype, but it still did look pretty unique. And this new facelifted body was now to be made entirely out of fiberglass compared to the initial TVR's steel body to cut down on weight and also significantly lower the production cost, as Trident needed to simplify their production process as much as possible to have any chance of making any money. Trident Cars Limited would also build the Clipper on the chassis of the existing Austin Healey 3000 as opposed to the TVR chassis that it initially had. Now, the Healey chassis wasn't bad per se, but compared to the TVR Griffiths chassis, it was definitely a downgrade. That's all. The suspension setup on the Trident changed to a solid axle in the rear instead of the original independent rear suspension design. With all those chassis and body changes, the new Trident Clipper really was actually a pretty different car at the end of the day than its initial TVR prototype brother. The only thing that really stayed true with the same at this point was the 289 Hypo Ford V8 under the hood. And as you will soon find out, even that changed, because by 1969, the available supply of Austin Healey 3000 chassis that would be used for the basis of the Trident Clipper were gone. This meant that a new donor chassis was needed. Trident would select and modify a Triumph TR6 chassis to fit under this new body, and the TR6 chassis itself had to be lengthened 5 or so inches to fit the overall body design. But the improvement here was that the TR6 did have better suspension setups pretty much front and rear, so it actually was better than the initial Austin Healey chassis that it replaced. The usage of the TR6 chassis saw the introduction of 2 new Trident models, the Tycoon and the Venturer. The Venturer would become available in 1969, and under the hood, these would come with the Ford 3-liter S6 V6. Then the Tycoon came after in 1971 with a Triumph 6-cylinder under the hood that was paired with an automatic transmission. These versions were positioned as lower-level trim packages at more attractive price points than the Clipper, which was nearly 3,900 Great British pounds new, while the Tycoon, for example, started at around 2,300 pounds. It should be noted, though, that you could also purchase a kit car of the VA Clipper that you could assemble yourself for just under 2,000 pounds at the time. But even though the Trident cars were really uniquely designed and they did use tried and true parts from other manufacturers, that just wasn't enough to convince many people to take the risk on buying a car from a new car company, especially at the fairly steep price point that the Clipper commanded when purchased as a turnkey car. As a result, Trident fell into some bad times financially, and by 1974, things were looking grim. Trident announced one final hurrah, which was a facelifted 360 cubic inch Chrysler V8 powered Clipper for the U.S. market around 74 to 75, but this never translated into any real sales numbers, and the company itself finally went under in 1976. In total, according to the Trident Car Club, allegedly 85 total Trident cars were built across the Clipper, Tycoon, and Venturer lineup. And of those cars, the club can account for just 55 of them, meaning that 30 of these Trident cars are still left missing and unaccounted for today. Trident as a brand unfortunately gets overlooked in history as just another one of the boutique automakers that failed, but they deserve more recognition than that. This company was literally created as the perfect definition of right place, right time, and they happened to secure the rights to one of the era's hottest designs, and produce their own version of it in record time, which itself is absolutely worthy of praise. Sure, it's not the fastest car of the era and it's no AC Cobra, but the Trident Clipper and the other Trident cars are very uniquely cool in their own right, and I promise you, if you ever see one at a car show, it's probably the only one that you're ever going to see in your lifetime, which is why we felt it was worth making a video on them. And let us know in the comments down below if there were any other super limited production cars like the Tridents that you think we should cover on our channel. Thank you all for watching another episode of our Rare Cars documentary series. If you enjoyed this video, we would greatly appreciate it if you could drop a like and also share this video with other enthusiasts. Also, please make sure that you are subscribed to the Rare Cars YouTube channel and smash that